All right, good afternoon, everyone. Let's go ahead and get started. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. We are so fortunate to have Tabitha Thomas with us today. This has been a little bit of a time in the making. I know Elise Dela Cruz, who was previously our training and technical assistance coordinator, has been working very hard to get Tabitha to join us for some time. And we had a couple of obstacles of health issues, and now you're with us, and we're so excited to have you. So just a little bit for those of you who don't know, Tabitha is, I'm pulling from her beautiful website, is a biracial, politicized healer, social justice advocate, somatic coach, rape crisis counselor, mother, partner, traveler, and dancer. She has extensive experience as an anti-violence advocate. In response to the needs of those in the field, Tabitha founded Creative Coaching in 2018 to offer support to advocates and change makers seeking assistance in their commitments in an effort to create more sustainable movement spaces. Tabitha holds a master's degree in marital family therapy and art therapy, and is with us doing a 3-part series. So this is day 1, and our next 2 days, so those of you who are planning ahead, she'll be with us again on June 10th and June 22nd. So at the same time, 1 to 2:30 on those days too. Those announcements will also go out today, I think. So you should all be able to put those in your calendar. Tabitha, thank you so much for being with us, and I'll let you take it away.
Thank you so much, Jessie. It's wonderful to be here. As Jessie mentioned, I'm going to be here for a 3-part presentation titled Our Power in Advocacy. And today the focus is really on vicarious trauma and burnout. For this first 90-minute session, I'll do an overview of vicarious trauma and burnout and introduce a few different preventative options. And then really it's kind of more of the foundation for part 2 and part 3. So I hope that you can come back where we will do a little bit more participatory activities. I'll lead a few more activities and offer some breakout groups. All right, so here we go. All right, so we're going to look at the impact of vicarious trauma and burnout. I'm going to offer some perspectives from the field. As Jessie mentioned, I've been working in the field for about 14 years now. These perspectives are based on observations, but also from a lengthy interview research project that I did back in 2018. And then we'll look at considerations for preventing burnout. I wanted to offer this beautiful poem or writing, really, by Adrienne Marie Brown, who I reference often. She wrote this in her blog. I think it was back, it was a few years back. It helps to say that I'm on the edge of burnout. In the past, I flew right by all the telltale signs and right into the flames, almost welcoming the rest that came when I relinquished all ability to live in my life. Right now, I feel like I don't want the rest that comes inside of or post burnout. I want to intentionally bring my attention to my well-being and make adjustments so that I can sustain. I want all of us who are tired to learn how to stagger our efforts with each other. When I think of staggering, I think of geese migrating long distances and how they take turns holding the lead position, because it is often the hardest labor. Cutting against the wind, setting the direction, setting the pace. It's maximum effort. We all need to hold that position sometimes, and we all need to fall back into formation sometimes. In order to all make it, to collectively go all the way. That means collectively paying attention to the signs of burnout. So here we have looking at 3 different concepts that really can overlap. Compassion fatigue develops over multiple exposures to traumatic stories and events. It brings about a deep emotional exhaustion, and symptoms may include avoidance, nightmare, sadness, grief, detachment, and somatic complaints. Vicarious trauma may develop from exposure to a single instance or multiple. It can shift our worldview. It is the impact of witnessing indirect trauma. Symptoms may look like anxiety, negative impact on your personal life, like the ability to enjoy things you once enjoyed, apathy, and intrusive imagery. Burnout develops over time and can happen to anyone in a stressful environment. It is the reaction to prolonged stress. Symptoms include cynicism, negativity, withdrawal, procrastination, neglecting one's personal needs, depletion of mental and physical resources, and a persistent state of exhaustion that can hinder your ability to function. Over time, compassion fatigue, vicarious trauma, and possibly even burnout impacts our psychological and physical well-being, and the ripple effect impacts our peers and our clients. Compassion fatigue and vicarious trauma symptoms mirror PTSD. So this is more of your like textbook descriptions. Then I want to move into some peer perspectives. I think I mentioned back in 2018, I participated in a Catalyst project through.
45 minutes back. Oh my goodness.
Go ahead and mute. That would be great. Thank you. I can't see everyone, so apologies. It feels a little disconnected here. I'm just staring at myself. So again, in 2018, I participated in this Catalyst project through the Center for Care Innovation out of Oakland, California. And I interviewed different service providers from different fields. Most were in anti-violence field, rape crisis centers, DV organizations, and I also worked with physicians who also work closely with victims of sex trafficking. And we looked at these different points. What was their motivation to do their work, different pain points, the needs that they identified that they had, and their perspectives on self-care. So motivation. There's the intentional motivation that we have for doing this work and the motivation that keeps us engaged. I think it's helpful to remember why we do this work, and it's also useful to revisit our individual vision, hopes, and our goals. These are some of the frequently used descriptions that I heard from service providers regarding their motivation. Noted joy in witnessing their clients' successes, finding their work to be meaningful, working with a supportive team, finding hope in what they do, being part of a community, giving back, a sense that this is their calling, enjoying helping others, etc. Take a moment if you have like pen and paper and just jot down a few notes for yourself around what motivated you initially and what continues to motivate you in the work that you do. Next, we're going to look at the pain points that interviewees noted. Some of this might be familiar for you. I heard a lot of this work not being sustainable, feeling exhausted, that their work was emotionally taxing, that they felt helpless, that the crises never stopped. I even heard, I wasn't trained to do this job. I don't feel prepared. I can't fulfill all of my clients' needs. There is not enough time. These pain points weigh on service providers and impact their health, their engagement, and work with their clients and their peers. It really takes a collaborative and collective asserted effort to support the longevity of service providers. And really, you know, looking at these different reflections, just take a moment and recognize if any hit home for you. Recognize that you're not alone, a lot of the folks that I interviewed some of them were fairly new in the field, like their first year. Plenty were probably year 3 to year 7 in their work. And then a handful of folks, probably I interviewed a total of about 85 people. And I'd say only about 10 to 12 were over 10 years in the field. And that was mostly the physicians. Next, we're looking at the needs. What were the needs that service providers noted that they had and potentially weren't being met? Service providers noted that they needed clearer program guidelines, they needed more support, they needed help with managing stress, they wanted more training, they wanted respect for their personal time, they wanted recognition, needed an ability to debrief with a supervisor in a timely manner. And, I found it interesting that, these needs really fall under the responsibility of not only the advocate, the service provider themselves, but also the organization and or the team. There's a particular relationship between supervisor and supervisee that matters here. So I wanted to highlight some of the benefits of reflective supervision and how reflective supervision can be a tool to meet some of these needs. This reflective supervision is the regular collaborative reflection between advocate and supervisor that builds on the advocate's thoughts, feelings, and values within a service encounter and creates an opening for collaborative engagement. It recognizes the importance of feelings and need to slow down with intention. It involves consistent supervision, meeting regularly for a set clear amount of time, whether that's once a week for 1 hour or every other week. Clear understanding of roles, program goals, and agencies' values. Direction is chosen in reflective supervision by the supervisee, and the focus is on how, not what. So some of the reasons for this type of supervision, particularly in this field, it's strength-based, it's trauma-informed. There's an opportunity to build rapport and relationship over time, fostering trust. And there's an opportunity here for co-creation. A key aspect of reflective supervision is self-awareness. And that is that both parties are bringing self-awareness into supervision. Next point we'll look at is self-care. We're looking at self-care as intentional, as deliberate, as self-love, as being necessary for the sustainability and longevity in this field. Service providers shared various types of self-care, a practice of gratitude, taking short walks, time in nature, exercise, time with animals, quiet time to recharge, therapy, meditation. We all know that this is a really high burnout field. So looking at how do we find work-life balance? Balance between receiving and extending. How do we reset between meetings and after challenging encounters? Self-care is a lot about boundaries too. How do you establish boundaries with clients, with work? Take a moment to consider what is vital for your wellness. Again, if you have pen and paper, you can jot down what comes to mind. We'll also, in a moment, take a look at some different offerings and different offerings for consideration. And Jesse, really quick, how many folks do we have on the call since I can't see folks?
So we have about 33 people. 32.
Okay, all right. And if folks want to take advantage of the chat box and share so that everyone can kind of see what other folks' self-care practices are, go ahead and utilize that. I'm going to move on to the next slide here from Joyful Heart Foundation. I love this image. This is the tree of contemplative practices. You see on it many different branches, options, practices, including stillness practices, activism, generative practices, relational, creative, and movement practices. Contemplative practices help us to connect to what's meaningful to us and can bring about a state of calm. Joyful Heart created a Heal the Healers program in 2010 to address vicarious trauma that professionals deal with while working with survivors. And this is something that's come out of that. This next image comes from Laura Vanderlitsky's. Anyone knows the book and knows how difficult her name is to say. She wrote Trauma Stewardship. It's an incredible book. I highly recommend it. When I was the director of a program at Weave in Sacramento, I made sure that every advocate on our team had a copy of this book. It's a really good one. The 5 directions serve as a guide to enhance our potential to work for change. She uses 5 directions. North is about creating space for inquiry. South is about building compassion and community. East is about focus. West is about finding balance. And the 5th direction is a daily centering practice. In the somatics practice that I'm most engaged in, there's also a focus on daily practices, recognizing that whether or not we are intentional, we all have daily practices, right? They may be formed out of our habits, or they may be intentional practices that we engage in for the sake of something greater that we're striving for, our commitments, our vision, our goals, etc. A reminder that we have choice in what we practice daily. Go ahead and take a moment to write down or share in the chat if you want to, what your, well, maybe you don't want to put this in the chat if this is a little bit too much, but write down what your personal and professional goals or commitments are. Then consider what your daily practices are that serve in those commitments. Those might be.
Sorry,
Yeah.
there was a quick question back to the tree that you showed, because I think people were busy writing their piece. Can you restate where the tree came from?
Yes, Joyful Heart Foundation. There's the website link down below. If anyone can't find it, feel free to reach out, or you'll have a copy of a recording of this as well. Yeah, please let me know if there's anything in the chat, because I can't see it as I'm sharing my screen.
Lots of good comments so far, just in terms of answering some of your prompts about self-care. And this group is very good about identifying good practices of self-care. I wish I could do half of what they do.
Oh, I love it. I really wish I could see that while I'm sharing my screen. Sorry about that. Jesse, do you mind if I bother you to ask you a couple?
Sure. Some of the good ones are, I mean, they're all good ones. Some that stuck out to me. live music. Gina, this is awesome. Lego building. I agree. I'd Lego build with my child. Massage and travel, gardening, sharing funny stories with friends, dancing, music, working out, walking in the woods and hiking, lots of music and listening to music and dancing, walking dogs, naps. Oh my gosh, naps. Wouldn't that be great? Mani-pedis, movies, TV shows.
That's awesome. Great. Thank you. Okay, I'll move back to the next slide if anyone was still looking at that. Another practice that I really like with looking at daily practices is not only the daily practices, but kind of taking a look at your, larger goals or your vision, whether that be for your work or your personal life, and then breaking down the practices that you want to embody. That might be not only daily, and recognizing that daily can be a lot to sign up for, looking at what your weekly practices might be or your monthly practices, right? For me, I have a practice of, being out in nature at least once a month, which might sound pathetic to some, might sound like a lot for others, but just to actually get out and really, for me, it's finding a water source, whether that's the lake or the river or the ocean. And so, in order to do that, I make that my monthly effort because it usually does involve a little bit of planning and driving and all of that. Another thing to look at too, I mentioned this earlier when we were talking about like how do we regroup, reset in between, different meetings throughout the day, after challenging encounters. If folks want to share in the chat what some of your reset go-tos are. That could be taking a deep breath. It could be making a note for yourself in your notebook. I'm going to stop the share for a moment so I can actually look at the chat box. One moment. Oh, yes. Amanda, you have a good point there. Walk away from the screen and take a break. Yes, in the world that we're living in right now, there's so much screen time. Yeah, I encourage you even on this webinar to not stare at the screen. Journaling, sitting in silence, chat with a friend, take a quick walk. Awesome. Yeah. And I think most folks, unless you're on site, at a residential center or whatnot, a lot of folks are really working remotely. So if anyone has any quick tips on how they manage some balance while working remotely. I love those. Yeah, I'm actually really bad at doing this. Yeah, it takes practice, right? Petting your dog, yes. Okay, so at home, having a separate work and personal space. I see why you're laughing. Besides 18 trips to the fridge. Right?
I can relate to that, Marisol. That's smart, Bridget. I need that.
Yeah. Carving out those spaces, whether we, have an extra room or it's literally a nook in the space that we have. Fantastic. All right. I'm going to move on. Thank you so much for all the shares. That's incredible. Yeah, cleaning, sweeping. Absolutely. Yeah, taking those breaks from the screen are so key too. If you can, even just now, take a moment. I have a window over here. Just look as far away as possible. If it's out a window, at the furthest corner in the room, and just reset your eyes. Notice what that's like. Good. All right, we're gonna move into a practice here, a centering practice. I'll share my screen so you can see the next piece. Okay, I wanted to include a centering practice that I've been doing for a while. I learned this in my training with generative somatics out of Oakland. And why do we center? I feel like this quote from Thich Nhat Hanh really answers that question beautifully. He stated, when the crowded Vietnamese refugee boats met with storms, if everyone panicked, all would be lost. But if even one person on the boat remained calm and centered, it was enough. It showed the way for everyone to survive. So we're going to move into a centering practice. I feel like I've flown through this. We're going to do a centering practice. It will be a little bit longer. So go ahead. I'm going to ask everyone to find a place where they can get comfortable. And you can be sitting up. You can be lying down. Feel free to grab any props or anything that you might want to get comfortable, blankets, pillows. And I'll go ahead and lead folks in a guided centering practice. I'm just going to wait a couple of minutes if anyone's grabbing anything.
Tabitha, I'm going to go off camera so I can sit on my floor. That's okay with you. Okay.
Yeah, and feel free. Again, I'm not looking at faces, so feel free to turn your camera off if you don't want to feel like you're being stared at. Okay. Assuming, I'm just admitting a few people here that are popping up. All right, for those of us who just joined us, we're going to move into a centering practice. So I invited folks to find a comfortable place, either seated or lying down. You get props or pillows, a blanket if you want, if you get cold. If you need the support, find a place where you can rest your back, lean against a wall or a chair back. And as we start to settle in, just go ahead and just move in any way that you feel like moving right now before we settle in. Stretch your body. Yawn. Roll your neck gently. And go ahead and drop in. By that, I mean drop into felt sensation in your body. And start with your breath. Just noticing pace of your breath. On your next inhale, take the deepest inhale of the day so far. And hold that for a beat, and then just let that fall out. Take another couple deep breaths on your own time. Really filling up your lungs. And on that exhale, let your muscles relax. Noticing on your next inhale, the rise of your belly and our chest. Good. Again, this centering practice, I learned from generative somatics. We're going to center in 4 dimensions. And we always start from center, which is about a couple inches below your belly button. Just dropping your attention there. Sometimes it can help to place your hands on your belly. And try to just notice felt sensation from the inside out of your center. And at this point, bring to mind your personal intention for this centering practice. It might be for relaxation. It might be for the sake of something that you are focused on, your wellness. Maybe to reset. It might be just to try something new. And then from center, you can relax your hands if you want to. From the center, we're going to extend in length. So extending attention and energy from your center up to the top of your head, and at the same time from center down to the bottom of your feet. So kind of this extension and opposition. You might imagine a string at the top of your head. It kind of goes down your spine to the tip of your tailbone. Let that string lengthen. Feeling a little more space between each vertebrae. As the crown of your head kind of opens up to the sky. Also pay attention to bringing energy down through the long bones of your legs. Drawing your breath down to the soles of your feet. And continuing to breathe in through your nose, not through your mouth. And just a gentle reminder to mute if you're not on mute yet. Returning to extension and length. Feeling your feet anchor into the ground. Imagine the pores at the bottom of your feet opening and allowing a root structure to kind of grow out the soles of your feet into the earth, anchoring you. Breathe into your full length. Extend it in our full length. You can also try on what it's like to overextend, like kind of stretch beyond your comfort, and then reduce that. Find that comfortable place to center in length, where you are connected to your full dignity. Noticing how you organize different parts of your body as you center in length. Letting your shoulders drop away from your ears. Feeling a little bit more space between the bottom rib and your hip bones. Feeling a little bit more space in your hip joints. And continuing to center in length. Again, a reminder to mute yourself if you haven't done so. In length, feel the full extension of our skeleton, and at the same time, let gravity help us to relax the muscles. Letting any tension in your belly melt away. Good. From there, we will shift into the second dimension of width. So imagine center line of your body kind of going down, center of your nose down to the floor. And from that center line, allow yourself to unfurl out to your edges. You can do so energetically and also by really widening across your chest, across your shoulders, feeling a little more space from ear to ear. Widening in your hips. Noticing the width of each leg, the width of each foot planted on the ground. Notice that inside edge of your foot, the outside edges of your feet. Extend. And if you still have that visual of that root structure coming out the pores of your feet, go ahead and follow and pay attention to the width of that root structure. Noticing where your edges are in space. That can feel like a foreign concept to some. One way to tap into that felt sensation is to just gently shift from left to right. Noticing the space that you take up. And allow yourself to settle in center in width. On your next inhale, feel the expansion of your rib cage. On the exhale, notice the contraction. Expanding our awareness of our center and how we stay centered in relationship to our width.
Is Jenny still here?
No, she left.
What was she doing here?
I don't know.
Go ahead and mute yourself. In width, we are working with our connection with ourselves and also others. So go ahead and width. Allow yourself to bring your attention and extend beyond your edges, just outside your body, paying attention to, if your eyes are open, sights and sounds. Notice that shift as you open up to the periphery. Extending to others on this call. Extending beyond the room that you're in. Extending to community. Your neighborhood. And beyond. And as you shift to extending beyond your edges, notice, pay close attention to how you stay connected to your center. There's no right or wrong, it's just noticing. As we notice when and how we're thrown off, it really just gives us that much more opportunity to look at options. That's what building our self-awareness and our somatic awareness is about. And from there, we'll shift to the third dimension, which is depth. And for the sake of this practice, we'll look at the front side of the body, the back side of the body, and all the space in between. So starting with the front side of the body, again, you can keep your eyes open or closed, whatever is comfortable for you. We'll start at the face, the front side of the body. Go ahead and if your eyes are open, just let your gaze soften. You can imagine your eyes just settling into the eye sockets. Continuing to breathe in through your nose, out through your mouth. Let your cheeks soften. Let your jaw relax. Kind of let it just hang there. Let your tongue settle into your lower jaw. Weighted. Notice as you soften the muscles of your face, any ripple effect. Moving down the front side of the body, noticing the rise and fall of your belly and your chest as you breathe. Noticing the front side of your arms, front side of your legs. Just noting temperature, any other sensations. You might feel the temperature in the air. You might feel the temperature of your body just under the surface. You might notice numbness. And that's okay. We're not trying to correct anything in this practice. We're just noticing. And some of that might bring about curiosity. As you focus on the front side, notice what it's like to gently shift your energy forward. Kind of lean into the front side, resource the front of your body. Look at this direction as leaning into future, vision, goals, tomorrow, what's ahead for us. And leaning into that can be really exciting for some. It can also be anxiety producing. Just notice what comes up for you. And then whenever you're ready, gently shift back. We're going to start to shift to tapping into felt sensation in the back side of the body. Allow yourself to shift from front to back by moving through the body. Noticing you're moving through skeletal structure, muscles, nerves, organs, and arriving at your back. See if you can tap into any felt sensation at the back of your head. Lengthening the back of your neck. Noticing the weight of your clothing at your back. Noticing where your body comes into contact with the chair or the floor. Scanning down your spine, all the way down to your tailbone, and imagine your tailbone growing and extending into a great big dinosaur tail at your back. And let yourself just lean into that a little more, resting onto that great dinosaur tail. Noticing how it feels to be in your back, at your back, resourcing what's at your back. There's a relationship here to our personal histories, our lineage, ancestors. There can be pain at our back, and there's also great wisdom. At our backs, we also have the support systems that are there for us in current time. Notice what it's like for you to shift your energy to your back, to rest in your back. And taking note of sensation, what comes up for you. And letting yourself shift from back. And go ahead and see how you organize to find center in depth, where you're both tapped into, connected to front and back, and settled, balanced between the two. Take a moment here to return to center in your body where we started. Again, you can place your hands there if you want to help you connect. And on the other side of this centering practice, tap into felt sensation at your gut level. Taking note of how you feel. What came up for you? If there was anything that was challenging or confusing, or it just felt good to connect. Also taking note of anything that piqued your curiosity. Good. And wherever you are, you can slowly start to shift from the centering practice taking with you what you want. And we'll reconnect back into this call. And I think we have a little bit of time. I wanted to go ahead and see if I can do breakout rooms, just to give folks a moment to connect with one another. I know it's a little bit easier to do so in breakout rooms than it is in the larger group. And in the breakout groups, just share any of the takeaway points for you from the different points that we covered during the presentation, or share how the centering practice was for you. And then if it's okay, I'll try to pop in to groups. If you haven't yet, go ahead and join your group. Oh, I can't hear you, Jesse, if you're talking to me.
Of course you can't hear me, right? I think because I'm co-hosting, maybe it didn't put me into one with you.
Oh,
but I can't tell here. It's like, you know how it like sounds at the top, like who's unassigned? I'm not unassigned. I think it's because I'm there. I originated the meeting. So
okay. Perfect. I'm just looking to see if anyone's like by themselves hanging out in a room. No, there's at least two.
okay.
How was that for you?
It is hard for me to let go of stuff.
Yeah.
I have a really hard time kind of like just, and there's like enough noise outside and I don't like find it like, well, there's work like someone was doing work outside, you know, and like the chirping and stuff, I can like that I can let in and relax too, but someone doing yard work, I find really not relaxing.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I always find that those moments kind of interesting too, where like, again, it's like real live example of like things are going to bother you. And then how do you like regroup?
Yes,
Right. Yeah.
yeah. I'm like, it's not, there, those are not strategies I have really honed at all.
Yeah.
I have a lot of work to do.
Well, I'm going to try to pop into the groups if that's okay with you and just say hi. And then my plan, if I can just share with you, I'm thinking like probably 15 minutes and then we'll come back and see if anyone wants to share anything, you know, in the larger group.
That's great. And I have a little eval that we use that I'll send out and then I can share with you some of the results of it if that's helpful.
Yeah, that's perfect. All right, thanks.
Sure. Hey Priscilla, you just joined. Everyone's in breakout groups and I think they're going to be there for just a little bit longer. Would you like me to put you into one or do you want to wait till they come back?
Um, no, I'll wait till they come back. I apologize for being late. I had another meeting and I couldn't break it.
Do not worry at all. They're just they're in breakout groups.
Well, maybe while they're in groups, can you kind of update me?
Sure. Well, the last thing that we just spent time doing was Tabitha led us through like a centering exercise. So it was kind of a long, like centering exercise. And now she's giving them kind of space to do a little checking in on different parts of the presentation and the centering exercise that resonated with them. So if you want to go in and just hear what folks are saying, that might be helpful too, just to hear what other advocates were found helpful during the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. One sec. It's a Hey, Nani. They're in breakout rooms.
Oh, okay.
I'm still hopping through.
Okay. Kara, did you get kicked out? Need to get put back in?
No, I'm able to be, but everyone else in my room disappeared.
Okay.
So I figured I'd just come back.
We're solo. Sorry. What happened?
No. It's okay. It was nice actually, just sitting in silence for a few minutes.
Do you have anyone in there with you at all at the beginning?
Yeah, but everyone was just kind of quiet. So it was okay. It was actually nice.
Understood. I was talking to Tabitha right before she started popping into them, and she's like, how was it for you? I'm like, really hard. Like, I have a really hard time. Meditation and anything that takes quieting your mind for me is like not my forte at all.
Yep.
So I really struggled. And there's like someone was doing yard work outside and I had the window open, and like all those things I find really distracting. Like I not block those things out well at all. And I could like kind of hear like rumblings of my kids at one point. Like there's nothing is like so
it's hard. It's very hard. These environments are not easy to create sometimes.
Exactly. And
My
then
cousin apparently.
out of the environments, I'm thinking about them.
Yeah.
Sorry, Nani.
It's my cousin like hates doing yoga because she hates being told like to breathe slowly. It like stresses her out. So I was like, oh, that kind of makes sense. I can understand.
I actually find it helpful someone telling me to slow down my breath, but I really struggle with like any guided meditation at the end of a yoga practice where I'm like, and like where they're like, don't think about things. I'm like, I feel like when I first started doing yoga, people would be like, you don't want your mind to wander. And then I feel like more recently the practice is more like acknowledge what comes into your head and then try to let it go. And I appreciate that more, although I still have trouble with the letting go piece.
Yeah. Easier said than done.
Right. Easier said than done for sure.
When I was younger, I like went to a bunch of like Hindu religious things, and I hated praying so much, so I would just like daydream all the time. So I feel like I don't know if that's like a meditation practice necessarily, but I think like because I did not want to like sit there and like listen to these like bhajans and like these prayers and like old people speak. I was like just in my own world all the time.
That makes sense.
So inadvertently, I might be okay with meditation.
Honestly, the most like meditative stuff I actually have learned from my partner, and like him, like one of his strategies for getting both of our kids to bed is like he does me, and I was like, and it like occurred to me much later how like that was like a very meditative practice. And it's one of the things he did with our first child, which I've like tried to start doing with our second child. It has not worked very well for me. I think it works better for him. His voice is like a little, like obviously he has like a deeper voice. I think it's like a little bit more soothing for them in a different way. But he tells them like all the different things that are sleeping to try to get them sleep. Like this is sleeping and this is sleeping. And then he just keeps going and going. And at first he was telling me, I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. So I was doing it, but I would like run out of things really quickly because I would try to think of all the things outdoors that they were like interacting. So it worked for me. And I realized how like this is actually pretty meditative, and it actually kind of puts me to sleep. Run down like animals or something else through the alphabet. And then or I go like fruits and vegetables, like something, you know what I mean, that I can think of like through the alphabet, and then I just go through one after the other, and it like keeps me focused. I think it gets them focused. So I actually really appreciate that. That was like that's the one thing that I think I have like one area that I think is sort of meditative that I have successfully been able to like do with a child.
Oh,
that's so smart.
Yeah, I was like, and I think I mentioned it to him at something on point. He was like, well, it's sort of meditation. I'm like, oh yeah.
No. You're scammed into it. I've been listening to like if I have like trouble sleeping, I like past couple weeks I've had like a little trouble sleeping. So then I went to like podcasts to listen to when you go to sleep. The number one rated one is terrible. It's a person just rambling about a story, and you're supposed to get lost in the details and just like go to sleep. And I was just like, no, this is like, I need like a linear, like none of this makes sense. And his voice is annoying, and I just didn't like any of it. And then I ended up going to like there's some sound stuff, like just like,
yeah,
just like weird background noise.
I have the Calm app and I like to listen to, I just have like white noise in the background and that's helpful.
Yeah. Yeah. So not about someone telling me a rambling story.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Because then I start paying attention to the details. Like,
I was like, wait, this doesn't make any sense.
Realizing it.
Yeah.
right.
What are you talking about again?
Too funny.
I just wanted to say I left my breakout room, so I didn't know if I was supposed to do that or not.
Yeah, I'm with you, Sharon.
Okay.
The people in mine like disappeared, so I
Oh,
came back
goodness.
a while ago.
Okay. Oh, okay. I mean, the three of us were chatting quite a bit, but it was like we weren't sure what to do next, so we just
You can
we
come
came
back and chat with us. We're checking other challenges to meditation and
Oh, yeah, I know. Just wanted to say hi to Kara.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Good. I'm good. I'm glad I'm here. This is great. This has been really great. And it's bringing me back to where I really need to get back to my yoga. It really helps so much. And, you know, I stop a couple days, then it's 3 days and 4 days and 5 days. I haven't touched it, you know, but it really does help.
I'm so with you.
Yeah.
This was exactly what I needed today, especially
Yeah.
I like have back-to-back like meetings, clients, like whatever.
Yeah.
And this was the exact thing I needed to kind of be like, oh,
absolutely.
take a minute. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you have a regular yoga teacher that you participate online, or there's so many?
You know what? I personally love a yoga with Adrienne on YouTube.
Okay.
Love her.
Yeah. So, I mean, before COVID, I was going to, like a brick and mortar, if you want to call it, studio here in Danbury, but that ended. Everybody ended their, their in-person stuff and everything. But anyways, I always go back to Adrienne. I just love her.
She's my favorite. There's one in particular where she's, it's a very old video, but she's on a beach.
Yeah.
And she's doing like she was on vacation or something or a trip or whatever. And it's like a 12-minute one. So I'm like, I can fit that into my day.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I look at time, 20 minutes. All right, I'll do that one.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh.
Yin yoga is really neat. If you ever come across through the Facebook, you can just put in yin yoga and they run a little bit longer, but it's very kind of like today. It's very still.
Wow. That's
You're in
awesome.
the poses and you're not in them for very long.
Right.
5 minutes, you hold the pose and it kind of like resets different parts of your body depending on what the focus is of the yin yoga that day. So you might enjoy it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll check it out.
Straight away.
Tabitha's trying to make the rounds of all the rooms.
Oh, okay. Well, we left the three of us left. And they're here. Louise and Marcia were.
I actually need to depart a little bit early, but this is, really engaging and wonderful to briefly connect. So everyone have a fabulous day.
Louise, I'm gonna put in the chat the eval if you can copy it and do it when you get a chance. That'd be great.
Certainly, love to.
Thanks.
Have a great day, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
think Tabitha's in with the last of the rooms.
Mhm.
She'll come back to us shortly.
I'm going to close all the rooms. I guess it'll take 60 seconds for folks to come. Every time I do that, I'm like, oh yeah, I can reset that, but oh well. Hey everyone, I think everyone's back. Thank you so much for engaging with one another and sharing your reflections on the centering practice and any other takeaways that you got. It was really nice to pop into the groups and hear directly from you and get a little bit of insight into your current experience working from home, some of you returning back to the office, and how all of that is going and just balancing life in general. I know it can be super challenging. Somebody, and you can chime in the chat box if you want to say it was you, offered, that they use guided meditation apps. And the one that they really like that's free is Insight Timer.
Cool.
I know there's also Calm and a bunch of others, but I love that Insight Timer is free. Folks were sharing how important it is to center or, meditate, whatever it is that you do to reset, particularly when doing this work. And, some of the challenges I heard too was just right now during the pandemic, working from home, maybe lacking focus at times, having kids interrupt or other people in your home. And that there's value in getting back into your body, right? And also acknowledging that sometimes doing so, checking back in, can also highlight some of the pain that maybe we haven't been tapping into because we're, in overdrive and doing all the things that we need to do in our day-to-day. So hopefully I feel like that can be one of the benefits of different, centering practices, so that preventatively we can pay attention to what's going on in our bodies, right? Mm-hmm. And hopefully take better care. And I wanted to acknowledge that obviously that centering practice that I just offered was lengthier. It was about 30 minutes. We don't always have 30 minutes to carve out, or nor do we have necessarily the focus, or sometimes it's obnoxious to listen to someone else's voice.
No. No, that was great. I loved it.
Oh, good. But wanted to offer, that there can be shorter practices too. And I was talking with someone in one of the breakout groups around offering these types of practices to clients, right? And it can be really hard to kind of onboard folks into this idea unless meditation is something you're already familiar with. I tend to like to ask clients like what works for them or what kind of grounding exercises they might do. And offer like shorter breathing exercises, right? One that I really like that I feel like has a little bit of a visual that helps folks is like the 4 square box. So breathing for a count of 4, holding it for a count of 4, exhale for a count of 4, and hold that exhale for a count of 4. And then folks can do that as many times as they want, and that can really help to calm the nervous system. Let's see here, we just have a couple minutes left. My last slide here, preventing burnout. So we talked a lot about, self-awareness, paying attention to your own well-being, for your own well-being, and fostering supportive environments in your work, home, and community. participating in activities you enjoy outside of work, connecting with nature and spirit. And Grace Lee Boggs quote that I love, we have to transform yourself to transform the world.
Mhm.
So I want to thank you all for joining today. There's my information. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions. But
Thank
I
you.
will probably see you again in June for the second and third part where we will continue with some more activities.
Thank you so much.
And thank you, Tabitha. And again, everyone, I put the link for the evaluation in the chat. Is there again? We cannot wait to have you back again, Tabitha, June 10th. And I think our calendar went out, so you all should have gotten that today. And we look forward to everyone being together again. Thanks everyone for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.